I'm 79 years old, and I'm about to tell you something I believed for 50 years, something everyone around me reinforced, something I built my entire life around. And by the time I realized it was a lie, it had already cost me everything that actually mattered. No one warned me, not my parents, not my teachers, not my bosses, not the people who claimed they loved me. And they didn't warn me because most of them believed the same lie too. I believed that if I was responsible first, life would reward me later. I believed that sacrifice would be remembered, that patience would be paid back, that if I delayed, joy, meaning would eventually arrive on schedule. I believed that one day, after the work was done, after the pressure eased, after the kids grew up, after the money felt safe, I would finally live. And for 50 years, I waited. I didn't learn this lesson at 79. I learned it much earlier. But like most painful truths, it took decades before I was brave enough to admit what it really meant. I was 29 years old the first time the lie showed up clearly in my life. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary, forgettable. The kind of day no one thinks will matter. I had just been offered a promotion. Bigger title, better pay, longer hours, more responsibility. The kind of opportunity you're supposed to feel grateful for. My wife, Ellen, was sitting at the kitchen table when I told her. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Our daughter was 3. Our son had just turned 1. The house was always loud, always messy, always alive. Ellen said, "What does it change?" I laughed. I said, "Everything. This sets us up. This is how we get ahead." She didn't argue. She never did. She just nodded and went back to cutting vegetables for dinner. That was the first moment I felt the quiet warning in my chest, the small voice that said, "Be careful." I ignored it, because the lie sounded reasonable, responsible even. It sounded like adulthood. I told myself I was doing this for my family, for stability, for security, for the future. That's how the lie works. It never asks you to be selfish. It asks you to be noble. So I worked longer hours. I missed dinners. I told myself weekends would make up for it. Then weekends filled up too. I was tired all the time, short-tempered, distracted. But I kept telling myself this was temporary. Just a few years, I said, then things will slow down. They never did. By the time I was 35, my kids had stopped running to the door when I came home. By 40, Ellen had stopped waiting up for me, and I still believed the lie. Because here's the dangerous part. When you don't see immediate consequences, you assume you're doing the right thing. No one pulled me aside and said, "You're trading your life for a story that won't come true." Instead, people praised me. "You're such a hard worker. You're doing the right thing. Your family is lucky to have you." Every compliment reinforced the lie. I missed my daughter's first school play because of a meeting that could have been an email. I told myself I'd be at the next one. There wasn't a next one. I missed my son's first real baseball game because I was on a business trip. I brought him a souvenir and told myself that made it even. It didn't. I was physically present enough to avoid guilt, but emotionally absent enough to cause damage. And still, I waited for later. Later became my favorite word. Later, we'll travel. Later, I'll slow down. Later, I'll be more present. Later, I'll fix what's strained. Later felt responsible, mature, safe. Later was the lie. At 44, Ellen asked me a question that should have stopped me cold. She said, "Do you actually like your life?" I laughed it off. I said, That's not how life works. You don't like it. You build it. She looked at me for a long time before she said, I don't want to wake up at 70 and realize we waited too long. I told her she was being dramatic. That night, she cried quietly in bed while I stared at the ceiling, already thinking about the next day. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything started breaking beyond repair. The lie doesn't destroy your life all at once. It erodes it slowly, politely, while you're busy being responsible. By the time I was 50, I had the things I was promised: the career, the house, the respect, and almost no connection. My daughter called me formal. My son barely talked to me unless he needed something. Ellen and I moved through the same house like co-workers sharing a space, and I kept telling myself this was just a phase, that once I reached the next milestone, things would improve. But milestones don't give back what time takes. At 54, Ellen told me she wanted space. She didn't scream, she didn't accuse. She just said, I feel lonely even when you're here. I told her I was doing everything I could. I told her I'd worked my whole life for us. She said, that's the problem. You worked instead of living with us. I had no answer for that, so I defaulted to the lie again. I told myself relationships are hard, that this is what long marriages look like, that everyone feels disconnected sometimes. I told myself it would pass. It didn't. She moved out 6 months later. The house felt enormous and hollow at the same time. For the first time in decades, I had silence, and I hated it, because silence doesn't let you hide. That's when the lie began to crack, not shatter, crack, slowly, painfully. I started replaying moments I'd dismissed as unimportant, the dinners I skipped, the conversations I half listened to, the weekends I chose exhaustion over presence. I realized something terrifying. I had lived exactly the life I was told to live, and it still failed me. The lie promised that sacrifice would lead to fulfillment. What it actually delivered was distance. Distance from my family, distance from myself, distance from any moment that wasn't productive. And the worst part? I couldn't go back. I couldn't reclaim the childhoods I missed. I couldn't undo the years Ellen spent feeling alone next to me. I couldn't rewind the clock and choose differently. All I could do was finally see the lie for what it was. If you're listening to this and thinking, this sounds familiar, don't brush that feeling away. That discomfort is important. If this hit closer than you expected, leave a comment. I want to know how many of us were sold the same lie, and how many of us are still living inside it without realizing the cost. By the time I finally admitted the lie to myself, the damage wasn't loud or dramatic. There was no single explosion, no moment where everything collapsed at once. It was quieter than that. It showed up in empty rooms, in birthdays marked by short phone calls, in holidays that felt like obligations instead of gatherings. That's what the lie really costs you. Not everything at once, but everything slowly, until one day you look around and realize there's nothing left to trade your time for. After Ellen left, I told myself I'd use the space to reflect, to rest, to finally breathe. Instead, I worked more. Because when you've believed a lie for decades, you don't stop believing it just because it failed you. You double down. You tell yourself you just didn't commit hard enough. I stayed late at the office even when no one asked me to. I volunteered for projects I didn't care about. I filled my calendar so I wouldn't have to sit with the silence waiting for me at home. That silence had teeth. It forced me to confront something I had avoided my entire adult life. I didn't actually know who I was without my responsibilities. I was useful. I was reliable. I was respected. But I wasn't known, and the people I loved the most had learned to live without me long before I ever noticed they were drifting away. My daughter stopped calling altogether for a while, not out of anger, out of habit. She had built a life where I wasn't central because I had taught her not to expect me to be. My son spoke to me politely, carefully, like someone talking to a distant relative. He never said it outright, but I could feel it. He didn't trust that I would really be there. That realization hurt more than any argument ever could have. Because you can fix a fight, you can't fix indifference. The lie tells you that providing is the same as loving. It isn't. Providing can be outsourced. Love can't. I had convinced myself that showing up financially excused my absence emotionally, that being tired was proof of devotion, that stress was a badge of honor. What it really was, what I can see now, was avoidance dressed up as responsibility, avoidance of vulnerability, avoidance of slowing down, avoidance of asking myself what I actually wanted before it was too late. At 61, I had a minor health scare, nothing dramatic, a warning, the kind doctors call manageable as long as you make changes. I remember sitting alone in the waiting room afterward, watching families whisper to each other, holding hands, anchoring themselves to something solid. No one was there for me, not because no one cared, but because I had never built a life that invited people to stay close. That was the moment the lie finally broke all the way through, not because I was afraid of dying, but because I was afraid that if I did, nothing meaningful would be interrupted. No conversations cut short, no plans canceled, no presents truly missed, just logistics. That's when I understood what the lie had really stolen. It didn't just take moments. It took intimacy. It took the slow accumulation of shared memories, the inside jokes, the unspoken understanding that grows when you consistently choose people over pressure. It took the chance to be fully seen. And here's the cruelest part. The lie teaches you that this loss is normal, that this is just how adulthood works, that everyone feels this way. They don't. Not the ones who stop waiting for later. I tried to repair things. Awkwardly. Late. I called more. I listened more. I apologized without defending myself. Some bridges held, some didn't. You need to understand this part because it matters. Realizing the truth does not guarantee redemption. Sometimes it only gives you clarity, and clarity can hurt more than ignorance ever did. I had to grieve a life I never lived while still living the one I had built. That grief doesn't look like tears all the time. Sometimes it looks like regret disguised as nostalgia. Sometimes it looks like anger at younger people who still have time. Sometimes it looks like this, telling you what I wish someone had shaken me and said decades ago. The lie says, be patient now so you can live later. The truth is, later is where intention goes to die. If you're constantly postponing the parts of life that make you feel human, connection, presence, joy, you are not being responsible. You are rehearsing regret, and regret is patient. It waits quietly until there's nothing left to trade. If this part of my story hit you harder than the first, say something, leave a comment, even a single word, because naming the lie out loud is often the first crack in its power. After everything fell apart, There was no dramatic rebirth, no sudden clarity, no moment where I woke up and felt redeemed. There was just space. Uncomfortable, unfamiliar space where my routines used to be. Space where excuses didn't work anymore. Space where I had to finally face the question I'd avoided my whole life. If I stop living for later, what do I live for now? At first, I filled that space the only way I knew how, by trying to fix things efficiently. I read books. I made lists. I told myself I would rebuild relationships the way I'd rebuilt careers and systems, with effort, with discipline, with plans. That failed quickly, because people aren't projects, and connection doesn't respond to urgency after decades of absence. So I had to learn something far more difficult than hard work. I had to learn how to wait without expecting forgiveness. I started small, painfully small. I showed up when I was invited, even when it felt awkward. I stayed quiet instead of filling silence. I listened without preparing a response in my head. I stopped explaining myself. That last one nearly broke me. For most of my life, I had justified my absence with logic, with responsibility, with good intentions. Letting go of those explanations felt like standing exposed. But something unexpected happened when I did. People softened, not all at once, not completely, but enough to keep going. My daughter invited me for coffee one afternoon. No grand reconciliation, just coffee. She talked about her work, her friends, her life. I noticed how often she glanced at her phone, like she didn't trust the moment to last. And I realized this was my mirror. This is what I had given her growing up. Partial attention. So I did the one thing I wish I had done decades earlier. I stayed. I didn't rush. I didn't check the time. I didn't steer the conversation toward safe topics or accomplishments. When she paused, I didn't rescue the silence. And at the end, she said something that still echoes in me. This was nice. Not emotional, not dramatic, just honest. That's when I understood something crucial. Repair doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from consistency after the urgency is gone. From choosing presence when there's no applause for it. From proving, over time, that you're not waiting for later anymore. My son took longer. He had learned self-reliance early. He didn't need me in the way children are supposed to, so I stopped trying to insert myself. Instead, I asked questions and let them sit unanswered if he wasn't ready. One day, months later, he called me out of the blue, just to ask how I was. I didn't try to make it mean more than it was. I answered honestly. That restraint mattered. Here's the hardest truth I learned rebuilding late in life. You don't get to decide how your absence affected others. You only get to decide how present you'll be now. And presence is not intensity. It's reliability. It's answering when it would be easier not to. It's showing up without demanding closeness as payment. It's letting go of the fantasy that you'll make up for lost time. You won't. Time doesn't work that way, but you can stop losing more of it. I also had to confront something deeply uncomfortable. I didn't actually know how to enjoy my life without earning it first. Rest felt like guilt. Joy felt unproductive. Stillness felt wrong. The lie had trained me to equate worth with usefulness. So I practiced doing things that had no outcome. Walking without a destination. Sitting without a distraction. Calling someone without a reason. At first, it felt pointless. Then it felt peaceful. And eventually, it felt like grief. Grief for how much of this I had denied myself. Not because I was cruel, but because I was obedient to a story that promised meaning later and delivered emptiness instead. I'm not telling you this to say it's too late for you. I'm telling you because if you're still breathing, there is still a choice in front of you. But it's a narrow one. You can't fix the past. You can only stop sacrificing the present. The decision that changed everything wasn't dramatic. It didn't look brave. No one applauded it. I stopped waiting for permission to live. I stopped asking whether I'd earned rest, joy, or connection. I stopped treating presence like a reward and started treating it like a responsibility. Every day, I chose one moment to fully inhabit. One conversation where I put everything else down. One walk where I didn't rush. One call where I listened longer than felt comfortable. That's it. Not balance, not transformation, just refusal. Refusal to postpone what makes life feel real. Here's what I want you to understand before you scroll past this and return to your life. You are not behind, but you are not early either. If there is a call you keep meaning to make it. If there is a moment you keep delaying, step into it. If there is a life you keep promising yourself later, stop bargaining. Later is not a place you arrive. It's a story you tell yourself to make today easier to abandon. Don't wait 50 years to find that out. If this landed, say something, even a single word. Presence begins the moment you decide not to delay it anymore. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.